Friends, in this video we will discuss about chapter 5 of NCERT class 7 history, rulers and buildings. Now around 8th and between 8th and 18th century, the two types of structures were built by the kings. The first were the forts, palaces, gardens, tombs, etc. Okay, these were for their personal rest, and second were for public activity purpose like temples, mosques, wells, etc. Now we will study about these structures, these architectural structures in this chapter. Around that period there were two styles of architecture that were prevalent. Okay, first was tribute or cobbled style. Okay, what is in this? Roofs, doors and windows, they were made by placing a horizontal beam across two vertical columns, as you can see in this figure. Okay, this was a very simple style of architecture. And another style of architecture was that emerged around this period was arcuate style. Okay, in this the weight of the superstructure above the doors and windows, it was carried by the arches. What is an arc? Okay, in this figure you see this is an arc and the load is carried, load of this structure above the doors and windows, it is carried by this arc. And how it is possible, it will see in the next slide. You see this is a true arc. What is a true arc? The keystone at the center of the arc is placed, okay, like this, and the weight of the superstructure that is around here, it is carried to the base of the arc by this keystone. Okay, so this is an architectural style of building. Now friends, we will study about temples, mosques and tanks around this period. Okay, so friends, constructing places of worship provided rulers with the chance to proclaim their close relationship with the god. Example, Rajarajeshwar temple, it was built by King Rajarajadev for the worship of his god Raja Rajeshwaram, and the ruler chose the similar name of god because it was auspicious and he wanted to appear like a god. The temple was a miniature model of the world ruled by the king and his allies. As they worshipped, who are they here? Kings and allies. As they worshipped their deities or their gods together in the royal temples, it seemed as if they brought the just rule of the gods on earth. So, can you solve this question of NCERT? How did a temple communicate the importance of a king? Okay, kings, they basically impersonated the personality of the god, and by building the temples, okay, royal temples, and by taking the name of the god, by choosing the similar name as per their god. Now friends, about tanks. Sultan Iltutmish won universal respect for constructing a large reservoir just outside Delhi Kuna. It was called Hauzi Sultani or the King's Reservoir. Okay, sometimes these tanks and reservoirs, they were part of a temple. For example, Golden Temple in Punjab, Amritsar. You can see in the figure. Now, friends, we will study why were these temples destroyed. See, we have learnt earlier that temples, that kings used to build their temples to demonstrate their devotion to God and their power and wealth. So it was a symbol of power and wealth. It is not surprising that when they attacked one another's kingdoms, they often targeted these buildings because they were the symbol of power of their enemy king. For example, in the early 11th century, when the Chola king Rajendra I built a Shiva temple in his capital, he filled it with the prized statues seized from defeated rulers. Example, a sun pedestal from Chalukyas, a Ganesha statue, etc. Also, Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni, he was a contemporary of Rajendra I. During his campaigns in the subcontinent, he also attacked the temples of defeated kings and looted their wealth and idols. Sultan Mahmud, he was not a very important ruler at that time, but by destroying the temples, especially the one at Somnath, he tried to win credit as a great hero of Islam. So friends, just solve this NCERT question. This is an important concept you will learn here. In what ways do you think the policies of Rajendra I and Mahmud of Ghazni were a product of their times? How were the actions of the two rulers different? You see friends, we have just learnt in the previous slide, in the political culture of the Middle Age, most rulers displayed their political power and military success by attacking and looting the places of worship of defeated rulers. For example, their temples. Okay, so thus, on the one side, Rajendra I, Chola ruler, he constructed the temples in his city by collecting the prized pieces, okay, many prized articles seized from defeated kings from their temples. And on the other side, we have seen that Ghazni, he defeated the temples of Rajendra I, okay, for example, temple of Somnath, to gain the popularity among Islam's followers. Hence, we see that both were the product of their times and their actions were different, as one tried to build the temples by looting others, okay, Rajendra I, and other, that is Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni, he tried to win credit as a great hero of Islam by attacking the temples. So their purposes were different. Now friends, we will learn about gardens, tombs and forts around the Mughal period. See, first is the Char Baghs. So gardens of Mughal, they were placed within a rectangular walled enclosure. You see in the figure, this is a rectangular wall enclosure, okay, and this garden was divided into four quarters by artificial channels of water, as you can see in the picture. These gardens were called Char Baghs, four gardens, because of the symmetrical division into quarters. Now friends, riverfront garden, what is this? This is just another variation of Char Baghs. This figure, note that the garden palaces of the nobles, they were placed on both the banks of the Yamuna. So this is a Yamuna river, okay, these are the palaces of the noble persons or the nobility of the Mughals. So this shows that they built the palaces just on the edge of the Yamuna river. So this was called the riverfront garden layout. Okay, this is another style of architecture. And you see here, this is a Taj Mahal, okay. Taj Mahal also was built on the riverfront layout. So friends, we will study about the riverfront architecture of Shah Jahan period. He introduced the riverfront layout. In the riverfront garden layout, the dwelling, that is the palaces of nobles, it was not located in the middle of the Charbagh but at its edge or close to the bank of the river. So there is a reason for also this, for because Shah Jahan developed this architectural form as a means to control the access that nobles had to the river. Now, in another city of Shah Jahanabad, that is he constructed in Delhi, that Shah Jahan constructed in Delhi, the imperial palaces commanded the riverfront. Okay, only specially favored nobles like his eldest son were given access to the river. All others had to construct their homes in the city away from the river Yamuna. So friends, what role did the Yamuna play in the layout of the new Mughal city at Shah Jahanabad? We have just learnt. Just pause this slide, pause the video and read this slide. So now friends, another topic we will learn, what is the difference between a tomb and a dome. See, tomb is a small building for the remains of the dead with walls and roofs, and dome is a structural element, okay, architectural element resembling the hollow upper half of a sphere. So these definitions you need to learn before we move on to another topic. So another topic is central towering dome. Okay, this is another architectural style of the Mughal period. See, these domes and the tall gateways, as you can see in this figure, they became important aspects of Mughal architecture. Okay, it was first visible in the Humayun's tomb. So in the figure you can see the Humayun's tomb. The tomb is placed in the center of a huge formal charbagh. So this is a charbagh, okay, and built in the tradition known as eight paradises. You see the difference here, that this tomb was placed at the center of the charbagh, and we have learnt that in the riverfront layout, what happened, that the dwellings or the palaces or the buildings that were placed at the edge of the river, okay, not at the center of the charbagh, okay, close to the river at the edge of the charbagh, okay. So this building was constructed with the red sandstone and edged with the white marble. Now friends, we will study another architectural feature, the ceremonial halls. It was during Shah Jahan's reign that the different elements of Mughal architecture, they were fused together in a grand harmonious synthesis, okay. His reign witnessed a huge amount of construction activity, especially in Agra and Delhi. The ceremonial halls of public and private audience were carefully planned. Placed within a large courtyard, these courts were also described as 40 pillared halls. So what is a courtyard? Here I have written the definition. See, this is a general picture of the courtyard. Friends, another topic we will read about is Qibla. Shah Jahan's audience halls were specially constructed to resemble a mosque. The pedestal on which his throne was placed. What is a pedestal? It is a base on which his throne was placed, was frequently described as the Qibla. Why? Because it is the type of compass for the Muslims mosque. Okay, they show the direction faced by the Muslims at the prayer. So the idea of the king as a representative of God on earth was suggested by these architectural features. Now friends, another topic is Pietre Dura. What is this? This is a name given to beautiful ornate patterns made by the colored hard stones placed in depressions carved into marble or sandstone creating. Okay, this is a figure of the or beautiful ornamentations. Okay, Mughal architecture, basically what they did, they designed the walls with these beautiful patterns. So Shah Jahan used these patterns in his royal court. They depicted the legendary Greek god Orpheus playing musical instrument. It was believed that the Orpheus music could calm ferocious beasts. Through this, the king wanted to communicate that the king's justice would treat the high and low as equals, creating a world where all could live together in harmony. So friends, can you solve this NCERT question now? Solve this last NCERT question. Okay, we have just read about this concept. An inscription in Shahjahan's Diwani Khas in Delhi stated, "If there is paradise on earth, it is here, it is here." How was this image created? See, we have learned that what Shahjahan did, he basically combined all the features of the Mughal architecture like big domes, large halls, massive gateways, etc. Okay, and he used a large courtyard basically to build the royal courts. So behind the emperor's throne or Shahjahan's throne, we have seen that there were series of pietre dura inlays. Okay, this is a beautiful pattern that we have learned. It depicted the legendary god Orpheus playing the lute or musical instrument. Okay, Diwan Khas was aimed to communicate that the king's justice would treat the high and the low as equals, creating a world where all could live together in harmony. So the Diwan Khas reflected the image of a paradise in itself.